Microphone up, nerves tight, every breath crackling with anticipation. That's how it all began on a day we thought would be routine. You're watching Turkish Spotlight Secrets, the home of whispers turned headlines, and before we unravel what really went down, take a second to subscribe and join our circle of insiders. Because tonight's chapter isn't just about a show, it's about a storm. One series. Two powerhouse names. And a question that refuses to fade: have the scenes crossed a line? The spotlight lands squarely on Barış Baktaş and Yağmur Yüksel, and the air around them has never been hotter. Eşref Rüya has dominated ratings and poured itself into timelines since episode 1. Audiences were hooked by its story world, its simmering glances, its nocturnal energy. But that isn't what's sparking flames this week. The charge being hurled is heavier. That the depictions of weapons, explosive confrontations, and the murky universe of organized crime are sending the wrong message to young viewers. It's the kind of accusation that doesn't just sting, it lingers. And just as the chatter reached a fever pitch, a pair of familiar journalists found their way onto the set, bold enough to ask what everyone else was typing. The set itself was deceptively calm. Lights dimmed for a break, wardrobe teams adjusting collars and cuffs, a script supervisor scribbling notes. An extra laughed softly over a paper cup of tea. Then a hush. Cameras still sleeping, but something awakened, curiosity, maybe, or the instinct that a moment was about to define a week. The reporters didn't wait for an invitation. A microphone was offered forward like a challenge, eyes politely sharp, words sharpened to a point. The crew stopped moving, as though the entire soundstage leaned in to listen. People say these scenes set a bad example, one reporter pressed, voice respectful but unflinching. The gunplay, the clashes, the mafia undertones, are you comfortable with the attention this brings to young audiences? It wasn't a new question, but it carried fresh weight in a space filled with props that suddenly felt too real. The wind seemed to slow. A boom operator held his breath. Between two takes, the story turned into something far more raw. Barış Baktaş stepped forward with the stillness that makes directors trust him. His face didn't harden. It stayed open, resolute. He didn't deliver a speech. He offered a line, the kind that fits neatly into headlines but doesn't leak its meaning until later. Watch the start, he implied, and if the world of the show isn't for you, simply don't continue. No sarcasm, no scoff. Just a boundary drawn respectfully, choice is real. It landed like a small stone in a deep lake, and the ripples moved faster than anyone expected. Within hours, timelines split. Some praised him for stating what felt obvious to them, celebrating his insistence that audiences are not helpless. Others felt a sting, reading it as too blunt in a delicate conversation. Behind the set walls, whispers gathered. Those close to Barış murmured that his point was about intention and consent. That Eşref Rüya does not ambush anyone, that it asks viewers to meet it on its own terms. Underneath that, another current ran, Barış's quiet frustration that the nuance of the show, the psychological threads, the bruised hearts and moral spirals, were being reduced to a reel of gun flashes. Colleagues who have watched him bury himself in the script talked about the parts of Eşref Rüya that people rarely clip for social feeds. The silence after a decision, the way a character refuses to forgive himself, the loneliness that follows bravado. To hear the show described only as a collage of violence felt to him like a disservice. To the writers, the crew, the late-night table reads, the search for honesty in a fabricated world. It wasn't anger so much as weariness. A sense that the conversation refuses to look past the loudest shots to see the aching quiet beneath. Then came Yağmur Yüksel, voice measured, eyes steady. She didn't refute him. She turned the diamond and examined a different facet. How a scene lands, she suggested, lives inside the viewer's mind as much as on the screen. Perception shapes impact. What frightens one might pass harmlessly over another, what challenges one person might empower the next. You could hear the shape of her thought even as she kept her tone light. Responsibility, in her view, isn't a single address, it has many. Creators, certainly. Networks, definitely. But also the people who choose, who know themselves, who step in or step away. Her team has whispered for weeks that she picked this project precisely because it wasn't sweetened for easy consumption. She trusts stories that hold up a mirror without airbrushing. That not every narrative needs a safety net, and some of the most urgent ones shouldn't have one. She knew Eşref Rüya walked in darkness. That was the point. Not to glamorize the night, but to show what it steals. When she talks about perception, it isn't a shrug, it's an invitation to watch actively, to think, to argue, to take care of one's own boundaries as a viewer. And social media, ever the courtroom, raised the gavel. Supporters filled comment boxes with certainty. It's art, not instruction. No one is forced to tune in. Parents and platforms can guide timing and access. Opponents brought their concerns with equal force. Whether we like it or not, screens mold habits. Repetition normalizes behavior. A primetime window carries a special weight. Parent groups and advocates pointed to scheduling, to the placement of warnings, to the design of promotional materials that spill across platforms frequented by teenagers. The volume built, not because one side was empty, but because both refused to sit down. In the production's inner rooms, a truth the creators have repeated quietly got another airing. Eşref Rüya was never meant to be gentle. The writers chose an unlit alley on purpose, charting a path paved with consequences. The perennial question reawakened, does showing harm equal glorifying it? The creative core remains firm, not if the storytelling refuses to reward cruelty, not if outcomes never pretend that brutality is free. Characters pay. They lose. They are haunted, and the bill is steep. That's the thesis, they say, and it's baked deep into the bones of the show. Of course, the rumor mill didn't miss its cue. Some columnists suggested the uproar had been good for business, a controlled burn that illuminates the title on streaming menus and propels clips into trend zones. Others floated the idea that both Barış and Yagmur had media coaching before addressing the issue, with lines polished to survive the roughest edits. People who stood 3 feet away swore the opposite. The microphones arrived unannounced, the answers were as unguarded as you can be when dozens of people are looking at you, and neither actor rehearsed for that particular collision. There's a wider frame around all this, and it's not new. Turkish screens have wrestled with the same tension for years, every time a crime saga captivates the country. Do stories teach behavior, or do they offer a safe simulation that drains the poison without requiring real wounds? In this debate, the distinction between Barış and Yagmur's stances matters. He leans on autonomy, audiences are grown, tastes differ, freedom means opting in or out. She folds in the psychology of reception, 2 eyes can watch the same frame and walk away with different weather inside them. Together, they paint a tougher, more honest picture than a single slogan can hold. Back on set, spirits, surprisingly, have not sunk. If anything, the machine is moving with tighter gears. Crew members joke that the controversy has given them longer coffee lines and better concentration. The leads arrive prepared, trading notes in a corner, then bringing volatility and tenderness to the lens in fast turns. A clapperboard snaps. A director exhales. Work fills the space where anxiety might have camped. The murmur among grips and gaffers is that the 2 stars' professionalism is the spine of the project, and the noise outside cannot crack it. Still, the tabloids love a match that keeps burning. A compact sentence from Barış makes a clean headline. A reflective paragraph from Yagmur spawns opinion pieces that travel beyond the entertainment pages into conversations about parenting, media literacy, and cultural responsibility. The show remains under a microscope, not because it is uniquely guilty, but because success guarantees scrutiny. Every frame becomes a potential battleground for larger fears. Who shapes the young, what screens should carry, how we share the weight of influence in a hyper-connected age. And so the argument doesn't close, it metastasizes into new corners, returns with fresh phrasing, finds new sparring partners. Eşref Rüya has stopped being only a drama and become a symbol, willingly or not. Ask 10 people what the show is about, and you'll hear plots and pairings, but you'll also hear philosophy. Violence and its portrayal, the freedom to choose versus the duty to care, the way stories can caution or seduce, sometimes both at once. Barış holds the line on agency. Yagmur gestures toward the complexity of perception. Neither denies the other. They simply stand at different points on the same bridge and ask us to look. So, what do we do with a story that refuses to sit quietly? Maybe we keep talking. Maybe we demand smarter ratings systems, clearer content warnings, richer conversations at home. Maybe we celebrate art that refuses to lie about consequences while we teach our kids to watch with their minds as well as their eyes. That's the current running beneath the headlines, the current that turns a scandal into an examination. And if you're here, you know that examination is the reason this channel exists, to track the heartbeat of a culture through the famous faces that carry it. This won't be the last time a scene ignites a lecture. It won't be the last time a microphone is offered like a test. But on that day, when the cameras rested and the set held its breath, two actors met the moment with who they are. One answered with clarity shaped like a door, "You may enter or you may not." The other answered with a mirror, "What you see is also what you bring." Between those two, the conversation found room to live. And we, watching from our own rooms, carry the debate forward with every click, every comment, every choice to watch or turn away. Tell me where you land. Is a hard story a warning label or an invitation? Does depiction educate, or does it erode? Should timing and access be policed more, or should we sharpen our collective literacy? Drop your thoughts below, and don't be shy, this community thrives on smart disagreement. Like the video, subscribe to Turkish Spotlight Secrets, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next whisper before it becomes a roar. I'll be back with what slipped between takes, the glance that wasn't scripted, the line that changed on the day, and the truth behind the murmur you heard but couldn't place. Until then, keep your eyes open and your senses tuned. The city is talking, and we are listening.